ladies and gentlemen. It is your favorite dark sorcerer here. Today, I'd like to discuss necromancy. The history of necromancy to some practices to which you can utilize for yourselves. I'm going to give you some references. I'm going to give you some little backdrop. But most importantly, I'm going to give you some works that you'll be able to go out and study for yourself. Okay. Some of these sources may be a little bit hard for you to find, whereas others you can get off eBay, Amazon, perhaps some Wiccans, some Wiccan or pagans type sites like azurgreen.net. But for the most part, you could probably use Google to find a lot of the books and the works because it's Scribd, down, you can download over 1,000 on occultism, ranging from Eliphas Levi to Grand Grimoire, some Grimoire of Pope Honorius. So I mean, there's a lot of different resources that you, as the practitioner or inspired practitioner, can actually the resources that you're looking for. Me is a good friend of mine. She and her husband from South Africa. They do a lot of great work in necromancy of theirs for a while. But let me get into some of the backdrop in the mythology for necromancy. The late dark, all wildlife just goes dead. You're in an area of wood, a lot of different sounds like hooting and hollering, and a bonfire going with people dancing around, either naked, in some form of robes. It's the practitioner get into that state of mind. His book is known as The Necromancer. Okay. Awesome book. You can get it in hardcover. I ended up getting my copy in hardcover because I love the hardcover books. I love the smell and the texture of them, especially the pages. So I mean, he really gets into the short stories and the myths of European type practices of witchcraft, specifically that of necromancy. Okay. He really allows you to get the backdrop of the sounds, the darkened woods, the bonfires, the rituals. Okay. Whereas in, say, for an example, the Munich manuscripts, otherwise known as the Munich manual for 15th century necromancer, delves into grimoires such as the grimoire of Pope Honorius, otherwise known as the Constitution of Pope Honorius, that of the Clavicle of Solomon, known as the Grimoire of Solomon, the lesser and greater keys, dealing with astrology, dealing with planetary type systems, dealing with alchemy, dealing with sigils and seals, such as the circle of empowerment, the triangle of evocation, which is geomancy, okay, to demonolatry and the Goetia. Okay, many of the Goetic demons really are able to tell the fortunes of past, present, and future. They can aid the necromancer or the inspiring witch or warlock, the wizard, the magi, the sage, the mage who gets into necromancy or any form of witchcraft within bringing forth and asking questions about a path. Okay, perhaps an event within your life. Okay, but for the most part, these demons, these marquis, these dukes, these grand dukes, and the kings and the princes, of the Goetia, really talk most about bringing forth money, hidden treasures within the world, either under the ocean or within the oceans or on land. Being able to divine sorceries of chiromancy. This is spiritual conjuration to bring forth a spirit to divine the past, present, and future things. Okay? But with necromancy, it is physically bringing forth a spirit for this conjuration, this purpose. Okay? Now, there are many works that really delve into this area of gnosis, this hidden treasure of knowledge. And we're going to talk about this a little bit right here tonight. And I think it would be good for you to actually learn some of this. The Munich Handbook really breaks down the grimoires, from the Grand Grimoire to the Grimoire of Armadale to the Constitution of Pope Honorius. This is the area of study that it really derived this intel from. It talks a lot about spiritual conjuration, either bringing the fake army in front of your enemy or a feast being displayed. The Black Pellet is known for this. Okay, the Black Pellet is a book based off spiritual summonings, having servitors. Okay, spiritual servitors, be it familiars, be it totems, be it spiritual servitors. Okay, in general. Now, a spiritual servitor is this. Okay, it is characterized as a spirit who is working with you, who chooses to work with you, okay, along your magical journey. A servitor in this capacity is someone that is like a patron, a guide, a teacher, all right? Whereas a familiar is a being like a cat, a toad, a serpent, okay? Or even a wolf, a dog of some kind, okay, or a spider that can bring about knowledge and wisdom, okay. Native Americans are known to have spiritual totems. They are known as spiritual servitors, okay, to which they commune with. Today, we know these beings as demons or angels. Now, the Black Pellet works quite a bit with Solomantic practices, but also mixed in with the Black Raven, also known as the Threefold Coercion of Hell by Dr. Faust. Okay, a lot of Faustian magics, like that put forth of Elizabeth M. Butler. Okay, her work in this area is spectacular. Now, what's ironic and interesting about this is that these spirits are still summoned, either through invocation or evocation. 1,000 years ago, necromancy was spelled with a Y, as in P-Y. Okay? Necro. Necro. Okay? N-Y. 500 years ago, it was spelled with a Y, not a Y, but an I. It changed to an I. And nowadays, it is spelled with an E. Okay, so you got three different eras just on the spelling and meaning of necromancy. And I'm going to get into this. I'm going to break this down into modern terms for you to understand. There are many works that I'm going to talk about here, starting with a more recent work by Dante RBL. I'm not sure if I pronounced his name right, but his last name right, but it's ABL, ABIEL. Okay. His book on necromancy is very top notch. It's unique. He really breaks down the rituals, but also through essays, he brings it down into a form of historical events, things of path workings. Whereas, say, for an example, Baroness Aragni and her husband, the Baron, literally show you right here on YouTube, no less, and on Facebook and their webpage, their own personal webpage, how to perform through photos, through scrying or divination tools such as the Ouija board or that of what do they call those things? The rods, the divining rods. Okay. Now this is very interesting because they didn't have this stuff 1,000 years ago, or even 2,000 years ago. Okay, we know that Eliphas Levi performed a necromantic rite where he summoned a former necromancer and was scared so stiff that he never performed it again. We know that Francis Barrett, who wrote The Magus, Volume 1 and 2, The Celestial Intelligencer, defined necromancy in two ways. The first is what I've already mentioned, spiritual communion to tell the past, present, future, or to simply ask a question. Okay? Now, the second aspect to this, which befalls reanimation or raising the dead. Okay? Many pagans and Wiccan authors, or even that of biblical scholars, such as in the Bible, talks about the witch of Endor, most famous witch of them all, most famous necromancer. Okay, she worked with blood sorcery. Okay, and it was said that King Sol went to her under the cover of darkness, and she brought forth a former prophet of God. Okay, who answered his questions. Now, keep in mind that this is also in biblical times, and that this was also nearing the 40-year mark of a war with the Philistines. Okay? So, again, we're getting into the history part, but also the mythology aspects. We know that blood sorcery is involved because of just the story behind the Witch of Endor within the Bible. But here's another kicker. 500 years ago, back in around the 15th century, we know that blood sorcery was introduced to necromancy due to the harmful effects of the Da'ath energies. Okay. This later became known as vampirism. Okay. And vampirism goes a long way with blood sorcery as well because of the fact that it's the essence of life and death. Now, necromancers utilize blood because of the fact that it staves off or wards off the negative, harmful, and baneful effects of Da'ath energies. Okay? It doesn't prevent them, but it does ward it off. Much like a vaccine to keep a disease away. Even though, like, say, for an example, if we take the disease AIDS, for an example, Now, this was a huge thing throughout the 80s, 90s, and a massive epidemic throughout Africa, okay? Namely because of the war and the tactics used in those regions. Now, today we have a serum that, or a drug, a series of drugs that prevent it from going from HIV to full blown AIDS. Okay. This is what I'm talking about. This is what blood sorcery does for the necromancer. Okay. And this is 500 years ago. Today, it's associated with chiromancy, which is, again, associated with spiritual conjuration. But if we go back into the Solomantic keys, okay, the greater and lesser keys of Solomon, or the Constitution of Pope Honorius, perhaps even the Grimoire of Armadale, the Sacred Magic of Abramelin the Mage, we have what is known as the Hand of Glory. Okay, now the Hand of Glory is a severed appendix, an appendage from a convicted murderer who has recently died. Okay, it's cut off, mummified, encased with candle wax or some form of wax, and you have one, if not more, candles that are attached to the fingers. Okay, this is also going into alchemy and herbalism. Okay, because all this goes into play. But when we get into more modern aspects of this, and this is something where I want to break this stuff down. The church, okay, the Catholic Church, the Vatican, condemned necromancy, leaving it as one of the number one most feared and darkest aspects of practice. It's one of 7. Now, it's actually been argued, and some people have actually suggested that there's more than 7. But yet, when we look at the forbidden arts, the 7 forbidden arts, which is also associated with sinful angels, okay, or sinful gods, when we get into beings such as Satan, Belphegor, Lucifer, okay, or even, say, for an example, the sinful, somebody's trying to get in here. Okay. Yeah, you made it. Just have to scroll over here to get to the messages so I can actually see them. Now, what's interesting to note here is that a lot of times when we go into history or mythology, we see where the Hand of Glory is associated, but we also see depictions of monks or friars with their apprentices, okay, standing in a graveyard with a inside of a circle of empowerment, a triangle of evocation, and a bag of smelly herbs with a spirit, the manifestation of a spirit. Okay. Now, when we go into the biblical, because most of this aspects of forbidden rites is actually in the Bible, because we know that in the book of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, for just out of example, we know that Jesus Christ, or Jesus of Nazareth, okay, literally brought back the daughter of the Shantaran, okay, who literally let her die. And he got pissed off, and he looked at him and said, "She's not dead, but she only sleeps. She slumbers." Okay? But then we also have the story of Lazarus, how he brought him back from the dead. We know that Jesus standing on the top of Mount Hinnom with 2 of his own apprentices, his apostles, 2 of them. He opened up what is known as Jacob's ladder. Okay? He opened up this rift where 2 spirits came forth. Okay? But we also know that the church defines necromancies, soothsayers, and diviners as being of the devil, as being evil. Now, this goes all the way back to Exodus. I want to say it's 22 or 24 area, where it's verse 18, where it says, "Thou shalt not allow a witch to suffer." Now, what's ironic is if you go back to the oldest known translation of the Bible, that would be the Vulgate Bible. Okay. It was actually defined as, "Thou shalt not allow a murderer to suffer." Okay. So again, you're seeing that translation and how it's been used to support the works of the Vatican or that of the Judeo-Christian pantheons. Okay. Which is why even in the 15th century, the Bouchard, done by Dr. Faust, which it later became known as the Faustian play, or the Faustian deal, which Elizabeth M. Butler actually wrote a good-sized book on medieval magic just surrounding this one topic. We know that Mephistopheles is a Mesopotamian king, lord of the dead, the underworld. We know that Lucifer's Raphael is also known as a pact maker and scribe, okay, in modern demonolatry. We know that many demons are able to make pacts or deals. So it's not just them. And a lot of these can actually teach you the sciences, the arithmetics, astrology. Okay. We know that Zainal, according to the Grimoire of Armadale, is the teacher of witchcraft. Okay. So again, you're going back in time. You're seeing where these beings have all changed. Okay. We know that Lucifer Raphael would be classified as the Black Flame, the twin brother or the brother of Lucifer, the morning star, Venus, okay, which is also considered a feminine energy, a feminine being, okay. But if you take these two beings and you go back into ancient Greek, you see them as the tale of the two brothers, which Asenath Mason speaks of, okay, in the rites of Lucifer, okay. But I believe she also writes a little bit about the history of it within the Draconian Magic book. Okay, so really delve into that. What's also ironic about necromancy is you can actually go back even further and see where the only people who were able to read and write were actually ministers, clergy. This goes all the way back to the 2nd century, specifically the Codex Gigas, known as the Devil's Bible. The Vulgate Bible was actually a part of this, and it's been scientifically proven that this entire book was written by one person in one night, okay? Which, according to science and mythology, it takes 2 or 3 people to lift this book. It would have taken nonstop writing for over 5 years just to complete by an average person. So again, you're getting into spiritual conjuration. You're getting into chiromancy, necromancy, making deals with demons and devils. Sorceress Cagliostro, the necromancer, love her work. She deals with blood sorcery, magnetics, electrifying the blood. Her book, The Blood Sorcery Bible, Volume 1 and 2, not only talks about working with demons, but also necromancy, becoming associated or acquainted with Da'ath energy, dealing with the disincarnate spirits of those who have recently passed away or are in the process of passing away. Okay? Personally, I was there when a friend of mine passed away. He had been dying for 4 hours. 3 days before his death, he kept saying, "They're coming for me." We kept asking, "Who?" And he says, "My family." 3 days of this. He kept getting up. This man was proud. He couldn't walk on his own. So we became light sleepers where we'd listen for the fall, or we'd listen to him try to yell out for us. Okay? This man died of cancer, a rare tumor that spread throughout his organs. Okay? I've seen personally the energy that is released when the energy disconnects from the vessel to the spirit. I've seen firsthand and felt firsthand how someone that is alive, that's 6 foot tall, weighs almost about 200 pounds, can suddenly weigh as light as a feather. Osiris, the judge, the one with the scale, gold in a feather. The gods, getting involved with these gods, these deities of death. There are demons who deal solely for necromantic practices. Abaddon, Arioch, just to name a couple. But you can go into the pantheons. For goddesses, you have Hel in Norse mythology. You have Hecate, Anna, Persephone, Lililitu, or Quilalitu, rather, are just some goddesses to name, just to name off. You have Supe in Inca for a god of death, a lord of death. Anubis in Egyptian. Hades in Greek, just to name a few. And yet, these are just a small amount of the world's pantheons, the world's religions. You go back in time, you're going to see a lot more that you can utilize within necromancy. You see the 2 points of reanimation. Dr. John Dee and Edward Kelly. John Dee was an alchemist, an astrologer. Edward Kelly was a seer, a scryer, a diviner. Yet their careers, one as a black magician, didn't make a name for himself. The other reported to the Queen of England personally. These 2 individuals came together and their career took off. They created the Enochian keys, linguistics. But yet, even though Enochian has been proven to have been seen not once, not twice, but 3 times throughout history, you can also trace it back to what is known as the Hellgate alphabet. This predates Canaanite and goes into the Chaldean linguistics. You can get into sigil work, angelology, demonology, the disincarnate spirits. Every world religion has some form of spiritual worlds, be it celestial, be it spiritual, or that of the underworld. They have the lords of life and death that can be utilized to summon these beings, to teach the necromancer or the inspiring witch, sorcerer, mage, sage how to divine these things. Ain't no Wicca in my witchcraft. That's actually pretty funny. No, but there is a lot of authors out there who have written about necromancy. They're from modern times. Raymond Buckland actually led the charge in this with his book, Spiritual Communication. Very, very insightful book. He's a little stuffy for a Brit, but he's very knowledgeable. This man died a couple years back, 2017. In his book, he talks about seances, summonings, methods of divining through black mirrors, scrying mirrors, divination bowls, Ouija boards, tarot cards, runes. A lot of information from mediumship, clairvoyancy, seership, just in this one book. And yes, I'm also aware that the Become a Living God actually put forth a book on necromancy as well. Now, personally, I haven't read their book on necromancy, so I can't really speak to it. My own personal aspects in necromancy, from dealing with people who are passing or have passed, doing funeral rites, such as Ragnarok, dealing with funeral rites within Satanism, within paganism rites, or even Christian rites, has led me into areas of necromancy that most people don't even notice. When you're dealing with energies, be it from those who are mourning to those who are dying or have just passed, you're going to be around that energy to where it amps you up. I used to work for Tractor Supply, and one of the things that I was known for is torturing the rats that kept coming into the warehouse and getting into the grain. We'd find them stuck to sticky traps, live traps. We've even shot them and they continued to come to the store, into the store. Until one day, a colleague of mine was standing behind me watching as I put fear into one rat. And this is a big size rat. Okay. And here's the thing, I was less than 12 inches from this rat while it was stuck to a sticky trap. It was whining like crazy, trying to get away, but could not move. I have literally flipped them upside down so that they would hang. And all this fear spread throughout that warehouse portion. Eventually, not only did the sticky traps fail, shooting them failed. It was the fear itself, the energy released as they were dying, that let the living rats know not to come into that warehouse. For weeks, you never saw a rat. They always hung out in the side yard or out back, but never inside the store itself. Back when they used poison, when they used the air pellet guns, the sticky traps, you'd find them underneath the shelves. You'd find them all over the place, dead, dying. But it wasn't until my method came into play that you ceased to see them. I poked them, pierced their skin, drew blood. One rat I shot in the ass, base of the skull, in the eye, to create the most amount of fear, to off energy. Blood sorcery was in play. You'd scatter it, just drag the rat along the side of the wall, out right up into the dumpster. Same thing. You never saw a rat anywhere near those areas. But yet you'd see them in the side yard. You'd see them out back, scurrying around. Necromancy is one of the most potent practices out there, both as a physical practice, as Sorceress Cagliostro has so kindly put in her works, as bodily fluids, fingernail clippings, hair, can all be used in hexcraft and cursing. But you can also utilize photos to conjure a spirit. Baroness Aragni and her husband utilizes photos, information, names, divining rods, prayers to bring forth spirits. Even Jesus of Nazareth used prayer to contact them. How do you like that book by Crowley? It's pretty good. The Book of Lies, the Book of the Law, speaks to a lot of good things. But prayer is a very, very good thing within necromancy. Most practices revolve around prayers. Most practices revolve around geometric shapes, invocations, evocations, and spiritual conjurations, utilizing sigils, utilizing photos. All of this stuff plays into a huge part in any given practice. Geomancy, aeromancy, pyromancy, hydromancy, chiromancy, just to name a few. That's just 6 out of 7 of the forbidden arts. Now imagine what you can do with the knowledge of how to do this. The Red Book of Appin, which is said to have been written by the scribe of Dracul, Vlad the Impaler, which we all know the story of Bram Stoker's Dracula, the Impaler, was actually based off him. This Romanian prince, this lord, who became a vampire. We know that Turk Suzage writes about Dracula and does an invocation to Dracula in the demonic Bible. All of this and all of these works are combined. They tell a history. They give mythology. They give historical accounts. But they also show truth within the practices. But you're the one that's got to be discerning how far you're willing to take it and where you're willing to go. When it comes to the arts, there's really nothing that I'm not willing to do for the knowledge, for the experiences. I delve face first in. I'm not afraid to get my hands dirty, and I'm not afraid to make enemies. But I can tell you this. If you want to get into necromancy, I would recommend Christian Day's Book of the Dead. I would recommend the Egyptian Book of the Dead. I would recommend the Tibetan Book of the Dead. I would recommend getting into the works mentioned here in this video, such as The Magus, Volume 1 and 2 by Francis Barrett, Transcendental Magic by Eliphas Levi, The Clavicle of Solomon, The Constitution of Pope Honorius, The Grand Grimoire Red Dragon, The Grimoire of Armadale, The Black Raven, or otherwise known as the Threefold Coercion of Hell. I would recommend getting involved with the Munich Handbook, otherwise known as the Munich Manuscripts. Okay? All of these works, including that of Richard Kekeffer, that of spiritual summonings, that of, say, for example, Elizabeth M. Butler, or even getting involved in demonolatry. Michelle Belanger, S. Connolly Reeser have some good notes on this stuff. Okay? S. Connolly has a lot of books. Her earliest books are based off honoring death. Bringing Down Belial is full of oleums and herbal remedies through alchemy, utilizing divination, such as the scrying bowl, the scrying mirror, pendulum. Her books are full of gnosis, just based off necromancy and demonolatry. Getting into any of these sources will help you understand necromancy. Getting involved in groups on Facebook that deal with necromancy. You can pay attention and see how others perform their rites. The Cabal, for an example, some Miss Dreadwood books, such as Chanel Whispers, The Black Scriptures, are just even profane. Seals has sigilliums, has Lords of Death, A History of Necromancy. And these are just 3 books from the Cabal, okay, that deal with alchemy, herbalism, dealing with remains of the disincarnate, such as animal bones, human bones. Why is it that a skeleton of a skull is so linked to the spiritual world? Why would a jawbone resemble power? Why would bones in itself help you connect to the spiritual world, be it demonic, angelic, or even spiritual in nature? Hello, Samuel. What's going on, my friend? So you see, all of this stuff plays into a part. Even E.A. Koetting has done videos where he's out in the woods and he comes across the carcass of an animal. He has all his ritual tools with him, so he digs in and he gets the bones. He consecrates them, blesses them, aligns them with the Da'ath energies. Okay, and I know a lot of people are sitting here going, why are you getting involved with E.A. Koetting stuff? The guy's a fake. He's this, he's that. Well, guess what? This guy has shown more courage. He has shown more good works than all these people bitching about him. He literally puts forth evidence of practice. He gives references. And every time he's been attacked, he has come back 10 times stronger, more potent. I can honestly see why the church refers to him as the Antichrist. Everybody who has attacked him, trying to use biblical terms or thought forms, he has literally gone after and utilized the same method of biblical scripture to counteract these words. Everybody from Espen Cayenne to J.S. Garrett, J.D., Orley Stewart, Frank White, and not just them. Edgar Cavall, Asen F. Mason, S. Connolly. These are some of the world's leading occultists. Michael W. Ford is another. You have so much works out there just dealing in death, magics, dealing with the tree of life, the Klapoth. Okay? There is so much information out there that you can delve into, specifically around necromancy, blood sorcery, spiritual conjuration, herbalism, alchemy. Why is it that astrology is used? What time of the years or the hours can you conjure a certain spirit? Be it a day demon or a night demon. What about even gems? Opal, sapphire, ruby. What about metals? You see where I'm going with this? So much information is out there within the arts itself that you can learn to do this yourself. Some will give you the rituals. Some will put books out there and charge a buttload of money for it. I think one of what was it? Anthropology of Sorcery, Volume 1 on eBay went for over $1 million. $1 million just for this one freaking book. Why not just go out and get some of these other works? You can get them off Scribd. You can get them off Abe Books, Amazon, eBay, azurgreen.net for anywhere between $10 to $40, and you can begin learning for yourself. Scribd is only about $8-10 a month, and it's good for 30 days. And they have over 1,000 different books from any known topic. You can even get the Codex Gigas off there. Bet you didn't realize that, did you? You can download PDFs from Google. You can get the Black Raven just by typing it in. You can go underneath the Red Book of Appin. Download it from Google for free. There's a lot of different places and methods that you can utilize to get your hands on this information. You can go underneath YouTube, type in necromancy, blood sorcery, black magic, devil worship, Satanism, and you're going to come up with a lot of sources, a lot of different point of views. The Black Witch Coven, for an example. These ladies are spectacular. They're constantly putting out information every so often. I get emails just based off their latest workings, be it witchcraft, necromancy, alchemy, demonolatry. I think the one I got today was actually based off a mother type, much like Lilith, Isis, even. I haven't really had the chance to read down through it yet, but I will. You can go to so many different sources just by typing it in. You can go to a bookstore, go to one of these links and just bring it right up. You don't have to sit there and stick to one source style or form or even a tradition. There's so many of them out there. Egyptian necromancy is different from Greek. Greek is different from Scandinavian. Okay? Or even European, Germanic, Norse, Icelandic, Gaelic, even, where the Druids were. So much information is out there, you just have to know where to look. You just have to have that self-motivation to go out there and get it. Okay, to seek it out. When you get a book, what's the one thing to that you can get within a book or any book? References. The end of the book, you always have references. Every book that I've ever gotten has at least anywhere between 5 to 10 references. And this is just big page photos of books. That's not even including the personal references of works that they actually studied. And you can actually go down through these and get them yourself and do the work yourself. Don't take my word for it. Go out and do it yourself. Okay? I can't tell you how many people have come to me wanting help, but they don't want to do the work themselves. They don't want to do the work themselves. I asked a guy one day, I said, he was from Nigeria. I asked him, I said, why don't you use Google? Well, I don't have Google. Really? Then how'd you get on YouTube? How'd you get on Facebook? If you don't have Google. Oops. Caught him in a lie. But my point is this. If you're not self-motivated, why should somebody guide you? We can show you to the material, but we're not going to do the work for you. Once you've done a heavily amount of research, it should be apparent on how to do things, like setting up an altar of death, be it from Santa Muerte, which is Central American, to North American. Go to La Santa Muerte, which is out of Portugal and Spain. Two different types dealing around the same goddess. Two different point of views. Voodooism, getting into Baron Samedi, the god of the dead, or that of Papa Nebo, the king of the dead, depending if you're in hoodooism or voodoo, voodoo. Okay? But here's one thing that most people don't realize, is that because of the slave trade, you have a route or routes going from Africa to Cuba, to Haiti, to Jamaica, to South America, Central America, all the way up into North America, that has spawned a tree of life type effect of various different cultures. Voodoo, Quimbanda, Umbanda. Quimbanda and Umbanda are considered two of the most bloodiest and most feared and deadliest religions in South America. To Haitian voodoo, which deals with a little thing called zombie powder. Okay? Zombie powder by the Boko or Bokor is something that poisons a victim, resembles death. And if they've done their job right, the victim of the Bokor or Boko would come back and truly believe that they are zombies. But yet, here's the thing. Going to Jewish mythology, you have what is called a golem. Both of these beings were reanimated by either a talisman or a name. One is a reanimated corpse. The other is a man of clay. Oops. Did I just go back into Christian mythology there? The man of clay. Lucifer did not want to bow down to a man of clay. So he was cast out. This is Isaiah 14:12 through verse 15. Going to the Quran, you have Iblis. Iblis didn't want to bow down to a man of clay because he was a man of fire. He was a being forged in fire and clay. So therefore, he left and created his own kingdom. Okay? Even Vocalocus Aureax clearly stated this, which is kind of ironic because between Vocalocus Aureax and Myrmidon Pontifex Maximus, two of my most favorite authors, by the way, within traditional Satanism outside of the ONA, and Alistair Notch, which is a theistic Satanist and spokesperson, basically referred to this as being, how should I say this, as not wanting to bow down to a man of clay, but to be equal. That's how it is actually spoken, is wanting to be equal with a man of clay. But if you go back in time and you go to, say, the Dead Sea Scrolls, and you go into the Scroll of Amram, you see the Sons of Darkness. This is the Sons of Light, the war, which has also been compared to more political aspects, much like the role of the church banning necromancy and the other six, to the witchcraft laws of 1412, 1604, or even going back even earlier to the Crusades, the Burning Times, even the Dark Ages, where things began going towards the Christian way, the takeover, where everything not of their church was condemned and became part of the devil. So again, you got to get into the mythology. You got to get into the history. You got to delve into the pantheons, delve into the works. Each one is different. Each god is different. Each lord or lady of death is different. They have different roles, different ranks. Just like the necromancy practices, you have different methods. The Witch of Endor used blood sorcery. Egyptian mythology used the Book of the Dead, reanimation. You go into Scandinavian or one of those European countries, you see different aspects. So again, you're seeing the differences. Delve into them. And I guarantee it, you'll get a much clearer picture of what necromancy is. Exactly. You lie to the ether. You know, a friend of mine and I were talking to a guy on our page, the Black Magician for Hire. This guy lied to us. We told him flat out, you can lie to yourself, you can lie to us, but you can't lie to the gods. Plain and simple. Hell, even Christians tell you that. So, with that said, I'm going to end this video here. I hope this has been enlightening. I hope it's been educational. But I also hope that you go out and get the works that were mentioned here. Delve into them. It only takes 2 seconds to get onto Google and type the names in. Go to the links. I hope you get them, and I hope you start learning. You can even go here on YouTube and type in necromancy and get a wide range from gaming systems to actual practices and belief structures. Go into Facebook groups, Discovery, type in necromancy, and you're going to get quite a few groups just on necromancy. So with that said, I want to thank everybody who dived into this video and actually, took the time to participate, to commune. Hope you learned a lot. And to answer your question, you can always get in touch with me off Facebook. So I'll always make myself available to you. All right. So with that said, this Dark Sorcerer is out.